Have you ever had the sense that you just don't belong? Like, doesn't matter who you're with or where you are, that you just have this sense of standing on the outside and looking in on everything. It's about feeling out of place, like you've just been dropped in from somewhere else and you're observing the world. And I've felt like that for as long as I can remember. You have the sense of standing on the outside and looking in, even when you're surrounded with people and family you feel safe with. Sometimes it's not even about loneliness, it's about feeling out of place. So this is basically about belonging. It's about finding your space, finding your place, and finding where you can feel and be yourself. We all dull our shine to some extent. We all accommodate other people, society, school, everything. In school you have to raise your hand to go to the toilet. We're so indoctrinated to follow rules. Let me tell you a little bit about my story. I grew up in a small Bavarian village to British parents. I was born in Germany and we integrated as much as we possibly could. My mum studied here, my dad had a job here, and we did everything locally. We went to the local kindergarten, school, and hung out with German friends. And I was essentially a German little kid who spoke English at home. But there was never quite this sense of feeling included. We were always the English family, we were always the non-Catholic family as well. There were so many little things that made us stand out from the crowd. And even my mum, who integrated hugely into local society, was always still with the English lady, and she made friends for life, and that's great. She studied here, she became a translator, and back in the UK then, when we moved back, she had her own business for over 35 years, and she was very successful, she did great. But still, we were the English family. I would dindles to little village events, but I always felt like I was dressing up in someone else's outfit or costume, rather than wearing clothes of my heritage. And for Christmas we did the Christmas Eve present thing as well as the Christmas Day thing. We tried to always balance both, so we had the British side and the German side, and it never quite gelled. I think it did, but it didn't quite. You know, I spoke both languages. German was definitely my better language back then, and it was kind of tricky, but I just went with it because that's all I knew. And it wasn't until I went to grammar school when I was 10 I made a best friend, a girl who, Alexandra, she was great. We were like this, we were like twins, and we wore the same clothes. I don't know, if you've ever had a best friend, you know what it feels like. You bond, you gel. And then when I was 12 we moved to England. So just like that, taken out of my comfort zone, everything I knew, and we went to England. And I went from this mixed German grammar school, state school, to a private girls' English school, where we had uniforms, houses, assembly, lunchtime, finished at 4. I mean, it couldn't be more different if you tried, and all girls. And then suddenly, I was the German girl. I had a German accent, I had this strange way of writing numbers with a 1 rather than just a line, just all sorts of little things, little idiosyncrasies that didn't quite fit in with the girls. And when you're 12, 13, that's quite significant. So there I was, again the outsider, the girl who had no idea of the cultural history of the UK. I didn't watch Neighbours, I didn't watch all the children's TV programmes they had. We couldn't watch TV back then from the UK. So I have this huge, as Germans call it, Bildungslücke, which is a cultural gap from the UK from late 70s, early 80s, and then I have the same for Germany after that. So it doesn't matter where you are, you miss out culturally, and therefore you have issues sometimes bonding with people. So yes, I was in this girls' school and I made some friends, but never best friends. I just never found my Alexandra again. And ironically, I tried to keep in touch with her, but it was only letters back then. And slowly over the months, they just petered out. I was struggling to get to know people and find my own place in my new school, and she just continued where she was and made other friends. And that was that, which, it's a life lesson. You know, it's a life lesson that not everything is the same always. Things will change, and it doesn't matter who you're with, where you are, it can all just disappear in a moment. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I did meet her years later again, and we just didn't get on at all. We were totally two different people. So yeah, so England was interesting. I used to spend a lot of lunchtimes as a teenager in the library. Sorry, switched to inside. My neighbour came out, so I didn't want to be talking in front of him too much. a little old guy who's in his 90s who spends every single day out in his garden. He's great. Anyway, where was I? Yes, so I would spend lunchtimes as a teenager in the library mostly, reading reference books and magazines and newspapers, and this became my happy place. It really taught me the love of reading. So I spent most of my lunchtimes in the library between the age of maybe 13 and 16. Not necessarily a bad thing. I did have some friends, but quite often they would disappear after lunch. They'd eat their food fast or run off, and I couldn't find them. Whether that was deliberate or not is irrelevant at this point. So I would seek refuge in the library, and that was great. And I really learned to love my own skin, being my own skin and my own company. And when I think back as a kid, even the boy next door, who was in my class, he used to come around every afternoon saying, "Will you come and play with me?" And sometimes I relented, but more often than not, I would just not want to go. I just wanted to be inside or in our garden, just by myself. So I've always been a bit of a loner, and I can even say that now. I love my alone time. I love my time with my family. I love my kids, my husband. We have a great time together. But I miss just me, just being on my own, just writing my journal, just sitting with my books. I don't know, looking at my crystals, pulling a tarot card, anything like that is something I love, and I miss it. I miss that time I used to have, and you don't realise how much time you have until you have kids. Then you have zero time. I managed school, I did my A-levels. I was also put back a year when we moved to England, so I was already a year older than all my peers. So at 19 I went to university, which is where I met my now husband. So we've been together since I was 19, which is 30 years. Yay! 30 years this year in May. How about that? Yeah. So I went to university, and suddenly I felt like I could be myself. It was just a brand new slate, just everything wiped clean. Nobody knew who I was. This was the best thing. And I'd struggled a bit at home after my sister went to university 2 years before me. My brother was at a sort of boarding school for music. So it was just me and my mum, and that was tricky for me. She struggled a lot with depression, and it was a lot of it on me. So there I was at university suddenly, this girl by herself. My best friend lived in the room next door in dorms, and she's half German. How about that? And we gelled instantly. Her dad's German, and I spoke to her in German whenever we'd visit her. Like we've been lifelong friends since then as well. So that was quite interesting. The Germanness still goes through me. As my husband says, I'm quite krautish in my behaviour, although you wouldn't know it listening to me, seeing my tea habits. I don't really drink coffee, I drink tea, English tea and herbal teas. But I know I do have my moments, like taking everything literally when you tell me something. So yes, here I was at university, and suddenly I could rebel. And within 6 months I got my belly pierced, my nose pierced. It was this one, now I've done it this side. And I got a tattoo, a little tattoo, it's not that big. And this was my way of rebelling, I guess, against society, against my parents. I think that's mostly the thing. And I remember in Freshers Week, I picked up a leaflet for the Pagan Society, because I know nature was calling me. That really has always been my thing. When we lived in our village, we lived in the middle of nowhere. It was the most incredible place outside. We had trees, mountains as we called them. They were just hills, and it was just beautiful because we could play and be wild back in the 80s, back before smartphones and people keeping an eye on their kids. So I was lucky, a Gen X lucky wild person, and this part of nature has always called to me. So I picked up this leaflet and I went, this is amazing. I remember the guy, I remember what he looked like with a beard and glasses and like a funny hat. And he said, yeah, come along next week, we have monthly meetings. And I told my mum, maybe I went home that weekend. I told my mum, and she burst into tears, and she started ranting on about devil worship and no, I'm losing you. And it scared me so much, I didn't go. And I wasn't deceitful at all as a teenager. I never have been, actually. So I didn't go. I just went, okay, Mum, I promise I won't go. And I didn't go. And honestly, I found this leaflet last year, almost exactly 30 years from Freshers Week. In the cellar where I have a big box of things, I found it perfectly preserved with little blue tack bits on the sides, so I had it stuck on my wall in my university room. And I wonder if I'd actually gone, who would I be now? What would have become of me if I'd followed my instincts and not gone with other people? People pleasing, this is unfortunately a lot of us. A lot of empaths are people pleasers. A lot of women are people pleasers, men as well, but it's more of a feminine trait. And you know, all my life I've done things to please other people. Not anymore. I'm working on it. But it's hard, and it makes me sad that for almost 30 years I didn't follow that path. I mean, university was great. I had a really great time, and it shaped a lot of who I am today. And then when we left, I moved in with my boyfriend, now husband, back to the town where he used to hang out a lot. So he knew everyone there. His friendship circle was already set up, and I had to integrate into that friendship circle, which I found very difficult. There were 3 girls, who kind of bullied me. They weren't very nice. They'd always relied on having him to themselves, who'd drive me around and just do whatever they asked. And suddenly I was there going, hang on a minute, you're not picking her up at 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning because she spent the night at her boyfriend's and can't get home. Like, those kind of things. It really, really annoyed me. And they didn't like it. So I got the brunt of that. And it was a drinking culture. It was in St Albans in the UK, and there were 98 pubs per capita, I think about 40 or 50,000 inhabitants back then. And that's quite a lot of pubs. And we used to go out all the time. I didn't initially. I really wasn't a drinker. I didn't drink till I went to university. I went a bit mad at university, but I can't really take my alcohol. I never could. Always suffered huge hangovers. And I didn't want to. I discovered Kundalini yoga in St Albans, which has actually changed my life. I did it for years. I got into spiritualism a lot more there. I went to Isis Crystals, this amazing shop that used to exist, and the guy who ran it has written a few crystal books. Philip Permut, I think his name is, which I have one. I didn't even realise it was the guy that used to run the shop. And I did my Reiki 1 healing there just before we moved to Germany in 2003. It became my spiritual home, that shop, and the place where I went to yoga classes was also like a second home. It was only once a week, but I felt so safe there. I felt so happy. I loved the people, I loved the teacher, I loved the little workshops she did sometimes, you know, and it was my thing. But then I still got drawn into the drinking culture and this huge, just alcohol-fueled time of the 90s. It was the late 90s at this point. And then we moved to a little house just outside St Albans, a cute little cottage, which was wonderful. And that was my haven. I loved it. I just loved, we had a cat, we had a garden, and it was just like my dream house was to have a little cottage in the country. But then we moved, 2003, we moved to Germany, and there was no internet really. A little bit, but not really. I had to make friends. Facebook only started, 2007? And I joined maybe 2 years after that. And then slowly I'd find communities. I did really find a good community in the expat community, especially when my kids were young. And I went to baby groups and classes, and there I do have some friends I'm still friends with 10 years on, and our kids are the same age, and that's quite nice. And women's circles, especially as I've got older, I've really discovered nice women's circles. There's a couple of ladies that run them, and one is out in the forest quite often, and then some are in yoga studios, and what have I done? Vision board workshops, and they're almost always in English, which is comforting for me despite being the German girl, you know. So this is basically my sense of not really ever belonging. I'm now again with the English family in Germany, despite having spent only 16 years in England, and work it out, even though I spent only 16 years in the UK and 33 years in Germany, I am very British at heart, and I struggle living here. I struggle with the rules, the regulations, the aggression, the beeping horns, the perfect houses. I mean, you can see my house is always a little bit messy because I'm just a bit more eclectic. I can't do that straight lines thing. Our garden isn't perfect like our neighbours either side. Everything's perfect. Even though I got pulled into this life of drinking, this British drinking culture, the spiritual side of me was always there. It was always there underlying. I would try and just do as much as I could. It's almost like my spiritual side of me was buried a little bit under the alcohol and the partying and the lack of sleep and the work. Everyday life took over, and I don't know, my shine was dulled a bit. I feel like my shine was dulled, and I didn't know anyone who could help me bring that shine back. Everyone around me was not the kind of person I'd want to hang out with. And also maybe I just haven't met the person or the people who are really on my spiritual level, my community, my tribe, whatever you call it. I have a little bit, and I do have a few friends, like a couple of yoga teachers, people who organise these women's circles, but they're not my best friends. They're just sort of acquaintances. And the really interesting thing is that whenever I go back to England, I feel like I have that connection back. Even though I struggled as a teen, the connection with the land, the connection with the sea is insane. We used to go surfing in our 20s. We'd go to Devon and Cornwall just for the weekend. It was the best weekends. And even though I wasn't a very good surfer, I loved being out in the water. I loved the wildness of the water, the cold, freezing water, wearing thick wetsuits. And you're there, exposed to the elements. The beautiful, beautiful countryside, the cliffs, the beaches, the landscape. I mean, just the whole British landscape is so beautiful. When I fly in and you see all the hedgerows and fields versus the very stripy, straight fields you have in Germany when you take off, it's like a different world. It feels like coming home, it really does. And if I go to anything Celtic, a stone circle, or anything spiritual, I just feel the energy so much more than I ever have in Germany. I mean, the energy level it's like I'm connected. And there's a song by Dan the Bard called Spirit of Albion, which I really connect to. And he sings a lot about myths and legends and also about the land. And Albion is the very old name for England. And there's a line that is, feel the pulse of the land, the blood boils within your veins. And even when I hear this, I'm like, you know, the connection rises up. It's like I want to be there. You know, I feel so close and connected to my kids, and I love going to the forest with them, and I feel that's my space. And that's what we all want to do. We want to find our space. We want to find where we feel safe, where those around us don't judge us. We want to feel like we belong. And finding that sense of belonging is really hard. I know it's really, and finding that sense of belonging can be a bit of a journey. And I know I found some comfort. I know I found some comfort in the liminal spaces. That's why I love the forests, these portals, anything, I mean, even the fairies, you want to be careful with them, really. I don't work with them, as people say they do, but I'm aware of them, I'm aware they're around, and you know, you respect nature, and with it you respect all those spirits that inhabit nature. So we feed the birds in the garden, and I love watching them. It's so wonderful, and it makes me happy, and it's the simple things that make me happy. I try and write a daily gratitude journal, and that starts my day off so beautifully, and then I sit there looking out the window and I watch the birds eating all the food we put out, tweeting. The dawn chorus at the moment is just magical. But here's the real truth. We're looking for truth outside ourselves. We're looking for acceptance and love and everything outside, from society, from our families, from our peers, from our colleagues, from everyone, our parents especially. And do you know what? It's actually within. Because the minute you accept yourself and you are happy within yourself, your outer world changes. Your outer world reflects how you are within. So if you can actually just love yourself and do what you love, within reason, then your world will change, and your sense of belonging will also change. And it's a slow process, and I'm on a long, long journey. I haven't even really scratched the surface yet. But I know that slowly I will get a sense of belonging as I meet those people who really make me feel like I belong, who make me feel comfortable in my own skin, who accept me for who I am, who don't laugh at me, who don't poo-poo me, call me the weird crystal girl, the weird whatever. It's my spiritual journey, and it's my journey, and it's mine only. Sorry, the battery ran out on my camera. But all I wanted to say was that maybe we're all here to forge our own paths. Maybe we're not here to belong, to fit in with society, to do what other people tell us. Maybe we're really here to be ourselves. And back to the sense of belonging is that there are many people who identify as empaths, and starseeds, star children, indigo children, all these have had a massive increase in the last few years, last 10, 20, 30 years. Starseeds, especially those who really feel like they're from outer space, from other realms, they're not from this earth. Empaths, indigo children, very tuned into nature, very tuned into spirit, really wanted to make a change in this world, a shift in this world. These are the healers you come across. These are the people who are making a difference spiritually. Those are the yoga teachers, the spiritual people, the Reiki healers, Those are the amazing people, and this is the people I feel drawn to. And I wanted to be a Reiki healer when I did my first Reiki. I've completed the whole thing. I could set up a practice doing Reiki healing. You don't really need any qualifications. Actually, in Germany you do, but in theory I could. But even though I felt drawn to it, I suddenly stopped and went, actually, I only want to do this for myself. I heal like friends and family. I try and heal pets or animals, or just send happy vibes. So if the car's playing up, just a little happy vibes to the car, and then you feel the energy in your hands. It's there. And this is who I decide I want to be. I want to use all this for a force of good in the world. I don't want to set up a practice doing healing. I don't want to make money out of it. I want to just be happy doing it. I just want to be happy. I want to have a house in the middle of nowhere, maybe back in the UK, big enough to grow lots of vegetables, have some polytunnels, have some chickens, and just be happy and just do my own thing. And maybe it'll happen one day. Maybe that's also all I need. I don't need anything more. I don't need all these amazing things. I'm trying to get rid of my stuff because I'm happier without. So maybe we all need to look at that. Look at not what you can gain, but look at what you can get rid of first. The biggest changes are made when you stop doing things and you get rid of things that are bad in your life, be it items, possessions, people, situations, anything. And then only once you've got rid of those things, you can start building things up again and bringing more things into your life, which will make you more happy. So I hope this maybe resonated with some of you. Sorry about the change of location, change of cameras. Leave a comment if you feel like you're an empath, starseed, indigo child, and even not, even if you're just forging your own path, trying to find a sense of belonging, to be part of this world in your own way without having to compromise and fit in properly. Okay, thank you for watching and see you next time. Cheerio!